All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started. So our learning objective for today is that I can review my conversions between fractions, decimals, and percents. So we already talked about them, but on Friday of this week, we're going to have a test on 7NS1, 7NS2, and 7NS3. 7NS1 is so we're gonna, and that all encompasses adding and subtracting with rational numbers, multiplying and dividing with rational numbers, and using them both, all adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing in real life situations. And then today we're going to review that also includes converting between fractions, decimals, and percent. So we're going to review that today. So these notes are on your Schoology page, so if you didn't already get them, they are there. I am going to start with the decimal to the percent. So we are in this, let me see if I pick a color. We're in this portion right here. And it's got a nice printout that is fun and can be colored so that you can make it as neat and creative as you want. So for a decimal to a percent, it shows you right there, it's times 100. And so one of the things that I want to put down here, and I'm going to type it so that it's neat, you can write it if you want. Well, you're going to have to write, I would write this in. Let me try it. Write this down here that it says to make a decimal to a percent, it says times 100, which is the same as moving the decimal. It'll type moving. Let's try it one more time. Why will it not let me type? Moving the decimal 2 places to the right. All right. So you're moving that 2 places to the right, which is the same. So times 100 is the same as saying you're moving it 2 places, excuse me, to the right. So we're going to put that right there. So if we look at this first example, they give us decimal place 0.48. So in order to change that from a decimal to a percent, I would take the decimal where it's at. I move it 1, 2 over. So I would have 48, and then we would throw in our percent sign. We would do the same thing with that next one. We have 0.08. I would move it over 1, 2 places to the right, and I would have 8%. And then again with the next one, I have 2.56, and I'm gonna I erased it all. I'm gonna go in and type it in neatly. So I have 2.56. So we're gonna move it over 1, 2 places again, and you would have 256%. Let me go in and type those in. But one thing that you will notice, and you see at this one, is if you have a decimal that is greater than 1. I know when you think about school and grades and percents, they go up to 100. If you have a decimal that is greater than 1, your percent is going to be over that regular standard 100. So we have 48%. Let me get real small and neat. I'm going to put it right here where it goes. And then we have, let's see if it'll let us, 8%, and then we have 256%. And we worked those out, but now they're there where they belong. So we moved the decimal 2 places to right. All right, so then what if we wanted to do percent to decimal? Well, that is dividing by 100. And dividing by 100 is the same as moving the decimal 2 places to the left. And we're going to take that and we're going to write that in there. In that next triangle, I'm just going to make it small. I'm going to turn it. Let's see. I'm going to turn it. Not that. I want to turn this one. Turn it. And we're going to place it right here in this. We might make it a little smaller so that it fits. All right. So we're moving the decimal 2 places to the left to change from a from a percent to the decimal. So you'd move it 2 places to the left, and when you do so, you drop that percent sign because once you do that, it is no longer a percentage. So now we're going to take that decimal, and one thing I like to point out, because I hear this question a lot, if you do not see a decimal, it is assumed right there at the end. So we're going to move it over 2 places to the left, and I'm going to type it in again so that it looks legible. So 2 places to the left puts it in front of that 9. So we have 0.97 is our decimal. All right, and let's make it a little bit smaller. Not quite that small. All right, so 0.97, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing on this next one. So I have 9%. So we're going to move it 2 places to the left. So again, assumed at the end there, we're going to move it over 1 over 2. But wait, Miss H, there's no number there. What do I do then? If there is no number there, you you would put a 0 in as your placeholder. So instead of just 0.9, you need to make sure that you go that full 2 places over, and when there's nothing there, you put in a 0 as your placeholder. So you have and you drop the percent. So then, let's see if it'll let me just type in this one. That would make it so that we have 0.09. We have 9 hundredths. So 0.09. We put a 0 in at that placeholder. And again, because it's over 100, I can tell you right now, I know that I'm going to have more than 0 point something percent. It's going to be greater. It's greater than 100. So I'd move that 2 places to the left. So that puts my decimal between that 1 and the 2. And again, I'm going to type it in because this is kind of small and hard to write in. So we know that when we move that decimal place 2 places to the left, I have 1.25. And then if we want to change our fraction to our percent, there are 2 steps. You first have to divide the numerator by the denominator to turn it into a decimal. And like we did with decimal to percent, then you would move the decimal over 2 places. So first I need to divide 3 by 4. So I have 3 over 4. We know that our top dog goes in the house. So our numerator is being divided by our denominator. So our top dog, goes in the house. 4 does not go into 3, so I need to do a decimal and a 0. 4 goes into 37 times, which leaves us with 28. 30 minus 28 leaves us with 2. Oops, if I could stay on the right page. So we are left with 2. We're going to drop down another 0, and 4 goes into 25 times. 20 minus 20 is 0. And then our last step is to go ahead. We're going to move that decimal up where it was. Put a 0 there because 4 did not go into 3. And our decimal is going to be 0.75. So at first step, it said numerator divided by the denominator. Then it tells us that we have to multiply by 100 because what we've done is turned that fraction into a decimal. But now we want to go ahead and, like we did before, turn our decimal into a percent. So we would take it 2 places to the right. So 3/4 as a percent is going to be 75%. I'm going to make it smaller and turn it so that we know that it goes right here, 75%. And then we're going to go ahead, and if you don't already have it, I'm pausing so you can write down that work. I'm going to erase my work, all of my work. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do the 2/5. So again, we know we're dividing. Our first step, it tells us divide numerator by the denominator. So we have 2 over 5. So our 2 is our top dog. So our top dog goes in the house. We're going to divide 5 into 2. 5 does not go into 2. So we have to add a decimal and a 0. And if you want to go ahead and move up your decimal now, that'd be good too, instead of waiting in the end like the last time. So 5 goes into 20 4 times. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 minus 20 is 0. So our decimal is 0.4. But again, we're turning a fraction to a percent. We've made the fraction a decimal now. Now that's a decimal, we have to change it into a percent. And like we did before, we have to move it over 2 places. But Miss H, there is nothing there. Again, like we did when we were going the other direction, when you move that decimal, you have no number there. You're going to plug in a 0 because even though you don't have anything there, you need to put in your 0 placeholder. So now, once we move it 2 places to the right, we're going to have 40%. And again, I'm going to type it in so that it's more legible than me trying to cram some writing in there. All right, so let's keep going around with our wheel. And if you haven't already, go ahead. You could have paused that and written that part down. I'm going to erase it, and I'm going to move on. So now, and let me move this out of our way. We want to change our percent to a fraction. So I know that all of our percents are out of 100. So I know that if I put my percent over 100, I can turn it into it is going to be a fraction, and then all I should have to do is simplify. So if I have 9%, I'm going to put it over 100. 9 over 100 is going to, there's nothing I can pull out of that, so that's going to be our, let's see if I can turn this so that you're not turning your screens or anything crazy. So, oh, shoot. Let's try this. Let's see if can I lock it to the, okay, no. So I'm going to move it. So we know that 9% as a fraction is 9 over 100. There is nothing I can pull out of both 9 and 100. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say 9 over 100. We're going to make it smaller. And I'm going to tell the computer to flip it. So that's 9 over 100. And I'm going to turn it so that it fits in our wheel. 9 over 100. There's nothing I can pull out of that. All right, and then we have 97%. 97%. We would, again, put it over 100. So let me erase this. 97% over 100. Does that? Yeah, let's do that to this one too. So 9. Let's fix that first one. 9 over 100. We make it real small. I'm going to turn it. And then I'll put in our fraction line so that it's more obviously a fraction. All right, so we have 9 over 100. Then with our second one, we're going to again put 97 over 100. There is nothing I can pull out of 97 and 100. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that the way it is. So 97 over 100. And we're going to make that really small so that we can fit it. And we're going to flip it. And we're going to add in our bar. And I'm going to draw in so that we know this one goes here. And this one, and you'll be more easily to draw it. This one goes here. So then I have 125%. Again, I'm going to put 125 over 100. But now before I go ahead and throw it in, I know that I can simplify that. first off, I can pull 25 out of both of them. So when I see 25, I think of quarters. I know that if I have $1.25, I have 5 quarters. So I am going to go ahead and say that that equals 5 over $1 is 4 quarters. So simplified, it's 5 over 4 as an improper fraction, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn that into a mixed number. And 4 goes into 5 one time with 1 left over. So that is going to be equals 5 over 4 equals, and then we're going to say 4 goes into 5 one time with 1 left over. So I'm going to have 1 and 1/4. So let's go ahead and make our 1 and say 1 over 4. Make that smaller than our 1. So we have 1 and put our 1, and we have 1/4. So we're going to put our 1/4 here. We're going to make it small so that it lines up with our 1. I'm just trying to make this as neat and legible for you guys as possible. So then I have 1 and 1/4. And let's go ahead and circle that and show that we know that 1 and 1/4 is our 125 as a fraction. All right, so let me keep going around our circle. I have decimal to fraction. So decimal to fraction is one of what I feel like our easiest ones when we learn, or as long as we know our decimal places. So all you have to do is read it, write it, and reduce it. So if I look at my first, well, actually, let me point out real quick. Let me show you, we have our decimal places, right? So I'm just going to put in some numbers. So let's say I have 0.125. This 1 right here is in the 10th position. So I have, if I was just to have this 1/10, and see, can I move this 2/5 for a second? So, nope, it's all 1. So if I had just 1/10, I'm trying to cover it just for 2 seconds, if it'll let me. All right, so I have 1/10. That I would read it as 1/10, which is 1 over 10. All right, my second position says that I have 2/100ths. So let me write that. My second position is our 100ths, 100ths, our 100th position. So now I have 12, because 1, 2. So I have 12/100ths. So I put 12 over 100. I read it. I wrote it 12 over that 100ths, and I can pull 2 out of both of them, so 6 over 50. I should have done 4 because I can pull 2 out again. And I have 3 over 25. I read it, I wrote it, I reduced it. And then our last decimal place, oops, I did not want to erase everything. Our last decimal place is the thousandths. So here, and let's make this a 6, just so that we don't have to reduce it. I have 100, well, I still have to reduce it. Let's make it 127. I have 127 thousandths. So I'd say 127. Read it, 127 thousandths. Write 127 thousandths. And reduce it, but we can't in this case. So let's go ahead and use that. I hope you wrote our places as we went. If you needed those, if not, rewind. That's the great thing about YouTube. Rewind and put it down. All right. So for our decimal to our fraction, this first one I have 6 in the second place. Our second position we decided was our hundredths. I have 6 hundredths. I read it. That's me writing it. And what can I reduce that by? I can pull 2 out of both of those. So 6 divide 2, 100 divide 2. I have 3 over 50. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type that and put it in so that we have a nice, clean, organized chart. So 3 over 50. And we're going to make that even smaller. 3 over 50 right here. And there's our line. All right, this next one, we're right here, is I have 48. And again, that goes into our second position. So I have 48 hundredths. So 48 over 100. Well, I can pull 4 out of both of those. So 48 divided by 4. 100 divided by 4. 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 8 2 times. So 12. 4 quarters in a dollar. So 12 over 25. And I'm trying to think. My factors are 25, 1, 25, 5, and 5. So yeah. So that's as simplified as it can go. So 12 over 25. 12 over 25. We're going to make it small. We're going to put it over here. Our decimal to fraction, 12 over 25. And then I'm going to go and throw in our line. And again, I'm going to draw some circles so I know this goes with this. And you will be able to write it together more neatly than I just did. Let's undo that second one. Let's pick a different color. This 12 over 25 goes with our 48 hundredths. And then I have 125 thousandths. So, and let me erase this. I have 125 thousandths. So, I read it. I wrote it. Let's reduce it. 25 goes into 125 5 times because 5 quarters in $1.25. And then 25 goes into 1,000 40 times because 25 goes into 100 4 times with 1 0. And then I have 5 over 40. I can still simplify that. I can pull 5 out of both of those. 5 goes into itself 1 time, and 5 goes into 40 8 times. So I am left with, what did I do wrong? Nope, nothing. And 8. So I am going to say 1 over 8. And then I'm going to put that in its spot right there on our wheel. Flip it around. And then I have 1 over 8. So put that there. Put our lines, show it's a fraction. Let's draw in that this one goes right here together with that decimal. And then our last one, we have a fraction to a decimal. So I have, and we kind of already did that when we did our fraction to our percent. We're going to divide our numerator by our denominator. So I have 7 over 8. So again, our big dog, our top dog goes in the house. So we are going to divide 7 by 8. So 7 in the house. 8 goes into 7. 8 does not go into 7. So we're going to add a decimal. We're going to bring up our decimal and a 0. 8 goes into 70 8 times, which is 64. 70 minus 64 is 6. We're going to bring down another 0. 8 goes into 67 times, which is 56. 60 minus 56 is 4. And I'm going to bring down one more 0. And 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times. And I do not know why I switched colors on us. And 40 minus 40 is 0. So we're done. So I have 0.875. And let's go ahead. We're going to type that in. 0.875. 875. We're going to shrink it and turn it and make it all nice and neat in our wheel, because you've been filling out the wheel as we went and you wrote it in there nicely too. All right, so then I have my last one, and we have made it all the way around our wheel for our conversions. I have 4/5. So we're going to put our top dog in the house, so our 4 in the house divided by that 5. 5 does not go into 4, so 0 decimal. Bring down a 0. 5 goes into 40. 8 times 40 minus 40 is 0. So we're going to put decimal 0.8. And again, make it smaller. Turn it. And there we go. We've completed our wheel. So, like I was saying, today we talked about our conversions between fractions, decimals, and percents. To change our decimal to a percent, we move that decimal 2 places to the right. To change a percent to a decimal, we move the decimal 2 places to the left. To change from a fraction to percent, we had to do our division to actually turn it into a decimal first, and then turn that decimal into a percent by moving it 2 places to the right. And then we changed our percent to a fraction by reading it. What was our percent to a fraction? By knowing that a percent is out of 100, so we put it over 100 and reduced it if necessary. And then to change a decimal into a fraction, we read it, wrote it, reduced it, fraction to decimal, we divided. And if you have any questions, please attend our small group, and otherwise, go ahead, get this done, and we will have a test on all of this that we've been reviewing this week tomorrow. All right.